But we got to be careful. Last days will also be a time, it says, of repentance. I will pour out my spirit, all these things. The world will be focused on Jerusalem. Just this last Hanukkah, not even a year ago, the whole world, through the United Nations, voted to condemn Israel over Jerusalem. And what did they say? They said that Jerusalem does not belong to Israel. It is a Palestinian territory, and Israel is the occupying power. Again, all condemning over Israel and Jerusalem. And God said in the last days, all nations will come and they'll try to move Jerusalem, and I will come in that day. One world state, how about that? How does that match up? We never in the history of the world has there been any approach to it as there is now. We are now joined to the world as we have never been. The whole world is joined more than it ever has. It's not yet political, but it's in every other way. Culturally, technically, every other way we are joined together. The internet, joined together. There will be, the Bible speaks about in the end times, there'll be persecution of God's people. We say, well, I don't see that much. Well, do you know that there are more Christians persecuted today than ever before? Across the world? More than ever before around the world. More than the days of Rome. And then if you look at America, the way America's going, you can even see it coming. And there's a mystery in the Hebrew year, or really the age. The age, God has done something that he set up the whole age to go according to the pattern of the Hebrew biblical year. And the thing is, about when you look at that year, at the end of the year, or the sacred year, comes a time called the days of Teshuvah. Try Teshuvah. Teshuvah means the days of repentance. The days of repentance. And it also really, you could take it out, you can translate it as the days of return. Same thing. Return, repentance. The Jewish people, return is linked to repentance. And so when does it come? It doesn't come at the beginning of the age. It comes at the end of the end of the Hebrew year. That means it comes at the end of the age. There'll be a great return. It'll be days of return. So what are we seeing at the end of the age? We're seeing Israel returned. And you'll see repentance as well. There will be a people who come back to the Lord, as we saw with Israel. But also, you can take this further. There will be a return of the church returning to its roots. Because when the Jewish people and the church are linked together, Israel and church are always linked together. Even if they don't think they're together, they're linked together. At the beginning, it was all together. And then it's separate. But what happened? The Jewish people left Israel, and the church, they went to all the earth. And what happened to the gospel? Went to all the earth. And at the same time as they did that, the church was separated. The Jewish people were separated from their land, their inheritance, and the church was separated from its inheritance, Israel. Its roots, its home, Jerusalem. And so what happens then if Israel comes back and the Jewish people return and Jerusalem comes back? It means the church is going to come back home as well. And it's interesting because it's not only that 50 years ago when Israel came back, when Jerusalem came back, not only that more Jewish people came back, returned to the Lord, but also, if you've noticed, the church has more and more true believers return to their roots. There's the separation between the church and Israel is vanishing. That more the church loves Israel. We take it for granted, but it was not always the case. Way back in history, it's rare. Love Israel. If you 50 years ago, you're in a church and you said Yeshua, they would think you're speaking in tongues. But now if you say it, almost every born-again believer knows it. You would never hear a shofar in a church. You never have Passover in a church. But now even Israel knows that its best friends are not even America. It's born-again evangelical followers of Messiah. Israel knows it. That never was. They were never together except at the beginning. So things are returning to the beginning. You know what was also in the beginning? Return. You know what else? In the beginning, you had a pagan world culture, anti-Christian, immoral, sexually immoral world culture. Well, guess what? That's coming back too. All this happening. And it's all happening, but it's all happening together. The good and the bad, the profane and the ugly, the enemy's purposes and the purposes of God. 50 years ago was 1967. What was that like? You had the sexual revolution. in full screen, the breaking of morals, at the same time, and the summer of love and all. You had all these things going on and craziness, and yet the same time, the same year and season, God fulfilled the prophecy of restoring Jerusalem. So you have all the craziness, and yet you have the purpose of God happening at the same time. You have all these things going on, and yet God still does his thing. You had all sorts of craziness, obviously. You had hell happening in World War II, yet God restored Israel through it all.
To find out how you can receive more of Jonathan's teachings, to receive special free gifts, or get in touch, go to hopeoftheworld.org or call toll-free 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's hopeoftheworld.org or call 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's 1-800-937-4821. You can also get more at Jonathan Cahn's Facebook page or write us direct at Hope of the World, Box 1111, Lodi, New Jersey 07644, USA.